everyone. I'm just sitting in our backyard, in our garden, and I'm about to go inside and make a few things that I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to be making Chaga tea, which Chaga is a mushroom, and I'm going to be making tea with it. It's supposed to help with your immune system, and I'm a bit sick at the moment, so I want to give that a try. I'm also going to make Chaga tincture, just because I have Chaga on hand and I have vodka, so I'm going to try to make a tincture as well. And I am also going to be making shiitake dashi, which is, dashi is the Japanese word for broth, and shiitake dashi is broth made with shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms are really high in vitamin C, and so I'm going to be making that broth just to also see if it helps with my immune system and helps me get over this cold a bit faster. So I'm just having my coffee, and then I'm going to go inside and make those things and bring you along with me. If you've been following along for a while, you will have seen a few different updates on this backyard that we have. It is obviously very overgrown again. It happened quickly, but it's still a really nice place to sit outside. I have found it absolutely impossible to grow any food in this backyard. I think it's the soil quality, but I've planted some garlic and they're doing pretty well in this potting soil. I've only planted 2, but I'm so tired of wasting seeds in this soil that I wanted to experiment before I planted a bunch of garlic, and it seems to be doing well actually. I have some chocolate mint here, which has popped back up. It kind of had died off, but it's popped back up, but some pest has gotten in, it looks like. I'll let it keep growing, see what it can do. Chaga is a mushroom, and it's been used for, I've read, centuries as a medicinal remedy. In mainly Siberia and different parts of Asia, it's meant to, amongst other things, help boost your immune system or just support overall immune health, which is why I'm interested in using it in tea today, as well as making a tincture with it. They can be found usually on birch trees in cold places, so Canada, Northern Europe, Siberia, Russia, Alaska, places like that. And it's become very popular, very common today outside of places like Siberia. The reason that lots of people are consuming it is because of some of the benefits it's said to have, which includes supporting the immune system, fighting off infections, and lots more. Now, it's really important to say that Chaga, because of its popularity these days, it is really over-harvested. What that means is that the species itself could become extinct because there's so much demand for this mushroom. Now, I plan to make this video before knowing that. I spoke with Grassroots Remedies, this collection of herbalists, a few weeks back, and they have this poster where they say which common popular herbs and mushrooms are becoming over-foraged, and they provide alternatives for those herbs and mushrooms. So you can seek those instead of contributing to over-harvesting. I had planned to make this video before I knew it was being over-harvested, and I'm deciding to continue to make the video despite knowing that, because I wanted to be able to share with people who watch this video that it is actually vastly over-harvested, and there are actually alternatives that you can use that have the same or nearly the same medicinal benefits. So I'll talk about some of those alternatives, and what I'm going to talk through today with Chaga, you can make the exact same way with the other mushrooms. It's really important to obviously not contribute to the destruction of a certain species, so I would definitely recommend, if you want to give this tea a try or the tincture a try, to find those alternatives that I'll mention. The reason that I'm going to make my tea and tincture with Chaga is because I have it now. I bought it before realizing it was over-harvested, and I certainly don't want it to go to waste, so I'm going to make these recipes using that, but you can do the exact same thing with the alternatives. So the alternatives to Chaga that I learned about through Grassroots Remedies is turkey tail. So that's a very common mushroom. It grows on fallen hardwood trees or even tree stumps year-round. Very common in North America and also throughout Europe. It's high in antioxidants, helps to support the overall immune system, very similar to Chaga. So that's a good alternative. You can search online for a source that's local to yourself, or you could seek out a mushroom expert to help you forage your own. The other alternative I wanted to mention that Grassroots Remedies pointed me towards is called birch polypore, which is another mushroom that grows on birch trees. It's common in the winter months in North America as well as in Europe. It's common here in the UK, and it has the similar benefits to chaga as well as antimicrobial properties, so it's really powerful in preventing colds and flu. So that's another great alternative that's not being over-foraged at the moment. So to begin, I'm going to make the tea, which I'm going to do by adding about 4 to 5 chunks of this chaga to a small saucepan and then covering them with water and bringing the saucepan to a low simmer. So I have this chaga here. It doesn't have any smell that I can pick up on, and it's very light. It has this dark edge to it. It's kind of black, whereas the interior is orange, if you can see that. And I think that's because when it grows on the tree, mainly birch trees, I believe, it grows as kind of a bulge on the tree. And when you see it growing, it has this dark exterior. And then when you cut it off, it has this orange, kind of rusty colored interior. But yeah, I'm surprised at how lightweight it is, but no smell. I'm going to let it simmer for about an hour. The longer you simmer it for, the better. The more beneficial compounds will be extracted from the mushroom. And then I'm going to strain it off. From what I've read online, people say that this could be a coffee alternative. I'll see if that is something that I agree with when I taste it. Nonetheless, I think just as a tea to support your immune system, this is a great option. So that's what it looks like after it's been boiling for, or simmering for about, I think, 2 hours. Still a bit hot, or else I would pick one. Let me see if I can. So it just seems a bit darker. But yeah, I'm gonna put those in, once they cool down, I'm gonna put them in a freezer safe container and save them for the next time I wanna make this tea. And I've strained off the tea into this glass jar. I'm gonna let it cool off a little tiny bit and then give it a taste. It is currently 2 p.m. in Scotland, and look at the light. It is nearly gone, which is crazy. I feel like this video is going on and on, but I wanted to taste the chaga tea because it's cooled down a bit, and I haven't tasted it yet. So what I'm gonna do is first pour it into a mug and taste it with no sweetener, and then see what that's like, and then probably add a little bit of maple syrup and maybe a splash of milk as well. So let's see what this chaga tea actually tastes like. I'm skeptical that it's gonna be a coffee alternative for me because I love strong coffee and I love the taste of coffee, but maybe. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay. It almost tastes like a green tea would. It's not a strong, overpowering taste at all. I simmered it for about like almost 2 hours. It tastes like a green tea and has a smell like a green tea as well. I personally wouldn't add sweetener to it. I don't think it needs it, or milk. I like it. I like the taste enough to just drink it straight like this. Now, I would definitely not call it a coffee alternative in terms of like the taste, and I mean, there's no caffeine in it, so yeah, I wouldn't agree with that review. But it's very pleasant and like very palatable. So what I'm gonna do is actually store the rest of it. I made about a pint of it. I'll put a lid on this, the rest of what I've made today, and store it in the fridge, and then I'll just sip on it over the next few days. You're not meant to have more than 2 6-ounce cups of chaga tea a day. If you're using one of the alternatives like birch polypore or turkey tail, maybe do your own research. I'm not sure about dosage there. I'm very happy I tried this, and I will finish this mug, and hopefully it'll help me get over this cold a bit faster. I'm going to make the chaga tincture now. I'm either going to find small pieces in the pack that I bought or chop up a larger chunk. And the reason for that is because whenever you're making a tincture, you really want to increase the surface area that's exposed to the alcohol. I'll see if I have any small chunks, and if not, I'll chop up one of the big ones. I'll see how much I put into my jar. I might fill it like halfway with chaga, and then I'm just gonna cover it completely with vodka, like you do with any tincture, and then put a tight lid on it and let it sit in a cool, dark place for about 3 to 4 weeks. The reason to make a tincture with chaga or birch polypore or turkey tail mushroom is to make it easier to consume the beneficial compounds in those mushrooms. So you can make a tea like I'm doing, but it does take like an hour or longer ideally. Whereas if you make a tincture, up front it'll take about 3 to 4 weeks to steep the beneficial compounds out of the mushroom. But then you just have this liquid left that's full of those compounds that you can just take a dropper full whenever you feel a cold or flu coming on, or throughout the winter to support your immune system. Tinctures make it easier to consume some of these beneficial compounds in mushrooms, but also other fresh plant material and dry plant material. I've made tinctures with elderberries and echinacea and nettle, and you can make tinctures with basically anything. With dried or fresh plant material, the benefit of making a tincture is that you preserve those beneficial compounds longer than, for example, fresh nettle. Fresh nettle will go dry and then it will begin to rot, whereas if you make a tincture with it, you've steeped out, you've extracted out those beneficial compounds into the alcohol, and then you can consume those beneficial compounds for, years, because alcohol is a preservative. Okay, so now I'm going to store this in a cool, dark place for about 3 to 4 weeks and then strain it off. So when I was making the tincture, I did a bit more research, and I learned that with chaga, it's a good idea to do a double extraction. So what that means is that you use vodka, like I did here, and then after 3 weeks, you pour the vodka and chaga together into a saucepan, and then fill up whatever glass container you are making the alcohol extraction in with water, and pour that over top of the vodka and chaga in your saucepan, and do that twice. So you have in the saucepan your vodka, your chaga, and then 2 times the amount of water as the vodka chaga mixture. And what you do with that is you simmer it on the stove on low heat until about half of the liquid has disappeared, and then you strain that off again and repeat. I'll make sure to include footage of what I did so it's clear, and also there's a link in the description to the step-by-step directions for this. But the reason you do this is because there are different beneficial components in chaga that alcohol itself won't extract, so it's good to do the hot water extraction as well, and that way you know that you're getting all of the beneficial compounds out of the chaga or whatever alternative mushroom that you're choosing to use. I'm gonna get started on my shiitake dashi. So dashi is the Japanese word for broth. It's usually made by simmering dried anchovies in water or seaweed in water. It's basically a base that's used in miso or ramen. The reason I'm using shiitake mushrooms in this dashi or this broth is because shiitake mushrooms are high in vitamin C, and they're also high in selenium, which is really good for boosting mood. I like to eat Brazil nuts. If I ever feel kind of down or tired, I'll eat Brazil nuts because they're really high in selenium. I've noticed, a positive effect on my mood, and shiitake mushrooms are also high in selenium. That's another reason that you might want to try this. There are many variations of dashi that you can make. You can make it with seaweed or dried anchovies. What I'm gonna do is do shiitake mushrooms that are dried water, and then the seaweed kombu. Kombu is a seaweed, and it's high in a bunch of different things. It's really high in iodine, it's high in vitamin C and vitamin A. So because of the vitamin C in kombu, I'm gonna add that to this dashi, to this broth. And I know that the seaweed adds a lot of flavor as well. So I wanted to have this broth be tasty, but also full of vitamins and minerals. So I'm going to make my broth with shiitake mushrooms and kombu. You want to use dried mushrooms instead of fresh mushrooms because when you rehydrate them, it gives the broth lots more flavor than if you were to use fresh mushrooms. So I'm going to add dried mushrooms to a glass quart jar, and I'm going to add some kombu as well, and cover all of that with water, put a lid on it, and then set it in my fridge overnight. And at that point, the broth is done. So basically how you make this is you just cold steep it. You cold steep mushrooms and seaweed, or whatever you want to use. If you want to extract even more flavor from the mushrooms, you can do the cold steeps, and then the next day pour everything into a small saucepan and simmer it on like a very low heat for 30 minutes or so, just to get out all of that flavor, and then strain it off. And you can use it as a broth. You can sip it just as you would like a sipping broth. If you don't want to use it as a sipping broth, you can use it as a base for any soup or stew that you're making. But it would be a good substitute if, for example, you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you don't want to use bone broth. This is a really nutrient-dense alternative broth that you can try making at home as well. It's already changing color to this really light, sort of light brown orange color, which is really beautiful. I'm excited to see what this looks like tomorrow when I open the fridge. I have tried the shiitake dashi, and it's pretty good. It has definitely a seaweedy taste to it, which I personally like. But I've just been sipping on it today to help with this cold. So if you are into kind of a very light broth, and maybe you're a vegetarian or vegan, this is definitely a good option for you to check out. There are so many things that you can make that benefit your health that you just don't find in the supermarket. The aisles of supermarkets are so narrow. There's just so much diversity in what nature provides, and that's so nourishing to our bodies, that are just completely absent from the aisles of the supermarket. So I've really been enjoying exploring some of these different ways to care for my own health and my family's own health. And I hope you're enjoying learning with me as we learn how to simplify our, lifestyles, but also just how we care for ourselves and nourish our bodies. So if you're just getting into herbal remedies, I have put out a free pamphlet with 10 really simple herbal remedies that are easy to start with, really basic, but are great ones to have in your holistic medicine cabinet. So there's a link to that in the description if that's of interest to you. But until next time, thank you for stopping by, and I will speak to you in the next Documenting Simple Living video.